All right, y'all, we are back. Today's video is number 2 in our breakdown of the DAZN/Misfits boxing card on August 27th. And really, there's only one thing to say, or in this case, sing, when it comes to breaking down the fight we have today, and that is, oh, please give someone a win in this fight between Fousey and Deji. Redemption's on their mind when they step in that ring. And that's probably the last joke you'll hear me talk about in this video, because this is probably the most serious fight on the card. It's like the message says, a fight for redemption that neither guy can lose. So with that being said, just like we did with Kenny and Sensei, let's break down the strengths, the weaknesses of Deji and Fousey, and ultimately what both guys have to do to win. But before we do, I'm feeling real nice and cozy talking to you guys, and it's not just because I'm happy to see you, it's because I'm covered in the finest garment known to man, W clothing. We're only 4 days away from 3 words: work will win. Click that link in the description. All right, so let's get into it. Fousey versus Deji, strengths, weaknesses. How does either guy win? Not a fight, but the fight for redemption. The breakdown. Let's go. Okay, so let's start with Fousey. We have to go back to the Slim fight to see what he's changed, right? In that Slim fight, he was outwardly overconfident, inwardly super underconfident, was swallowed by the moment, was in the complete wrong shape for boxing, and had no tools to assist him as a boxer. His technique was flat out awful. So what's Fousey done since then to be able to change those things? Well, he got in ridiculous shape. That already, in my opinion, is a strength of Fousey. His ability to take on the challenge of losing, I don't know how much weight, and get in ridiculous boxing shape. The bodybuilder muscles that he was walking around in the Slim fight with are no longer there. Yeah, sure, he's muscular, but it's not in a way that's going to be a detriment to his boxing. In fact, it's going to help him, because not having to carry all that extra weight is going to allow him to do very simple things like hold his hands higher for longer. That sounds simple, but it's not easy to do for minutes and minutes at a time while throwing punches. Another thing that's going to be helped by him shedding some weight is his ability to move and not burn his gas tank. About a minute into that Slim fight, you saw those deep breaths from Fousey already, and that was a 6-rounder. I think we're only going for 3 or 4 in this one, so I don't have much concern that Fousey's going to be in that same position, because again, he's taken the steps to get in better shape and build himself back. And the other strength we were talking about a second ago is that mental fortitude. We saw Fousey get his ass whipped in that Slim fight. There's no doubts about it. That's what happened. But again, I go back to this, his ability to get off that stool, answer the bell, and keep fighting. While it wasn't great, and no one's path to victory is just walk forward and get hit by punches. If that happens again, no matter how much mental fortitude he has, he will lose again. But with now that memory, with that understanding of what went wrong in the first fight, to now put that into his training and have that in the back pocket if the going gets tough, that's something that on the other side of the aisle, Deji has struggled with. And because we have guys that aren't the super highest skill level, when things get rough for either guy, there is going to come a point where both guys have to answer that question: how bad do I really want to continue doing this? And that is where I feel like Fousey holds a big advantage. If he is mentally locked in like he has shown throughout this training camp, comes into that fight and has a little bit more skill, he could be a dangerous guy, because his mentality is he will not quit. And if we're talking about boxing ability, what is Fousey good at? Again, technically he's not great, or at least from what we've seen he's not, but he has big time power and he throws major heat when he does decide to throw. I would say you got to take some off of that. Throwing haymakers continuously like he did in the Slim fight, it's not going to go well for him. But if Fousey's able to relax just a little bit and throw one of those haymakers every 3 or every 4 and be able to throw it on balance, not overthrowing every single shot, he will be far more accurate. He'll have far more of those haymakers to throw, and with no headgear on and hammers like that, Fousey can absolutely put Deji out of there if one of those lands, because we've seen the power in those paws. He has put Alex Wasabi on the mat with 16s and headgear on, so we're talking 12s or 10s with no headgear, clip Deji on the chin and put him down. But that is where the tide turns and we go into Fousey's weaknesses, because yes, he absolutely can put Deji down, but it's not just going to be him throwing heavy haymakers over and over like we saw in that Slim fight. That will absolutely gas him. I don't care what kind of great shape he's in. If he has not learned any technique and he's still throwing those stiff, overthrown haymakers that have no balance behind them at all, and he's almost falling into them, that could very quickly turn into Fousey just walking onto shots, just like the Slim fight. And I know that Fousey has been working on his technique. He has been with Jackrabbit, I think, for 7 or 8 months now. I'm not exactly sure. But when we saw some of those training sessions with him and Dean and him working on some of the pads, I'm not saying this is where he is now, but it's only what I've seen. And I can't say what I haven't seen, but there was still a little bit of those old bad habits in what he was doing. Stiff, overthrown hooks. He wasn't able to relax his body with shots. Everything just tight, bite down on the mouthpiece and throw. Not everything has to be a power shot from Fousey. He needs to relax. And not you're going to see those bad habits come out, because once you miss one of those big ones and now you're frustrated, and you miss the second one and now you're more frustrated and you're just missing him, so maybe the third and fourth and fifth, and now I'm tired, and now it's Deji's turn. So how does Fousey win this fight? I don't see him attempting or even winning trying to counterpunch off his back foot. I don't see Fousey having the skills to do that yet. So the plan is pretty simple. Walk forward behind your jab with a bit of head movement, under control, and push Deji backward. And Alex kind of had the perfect blueprint for this. He popped that jab into range. He fell in with the right hand. He clinched Deji, started to maneuver him in that clinch, playing over-unders. And then when they broke, boom, hooks off the edge, because Deji would stand straight up and not fire his punches or protect himself out of that clinch. And I think Fousey should follow a lot of the game plan, being able to step on Deji's toes, make him second guess all the success he's had in his sparring and in camp, and honestly make him a little bit more afraid to throw those counter punches off the back foot like we saw him in the Alex fight. If he's able to crowd Deji with that jab early, then fall into the clinch, lean on him, make Deji carry a bit of that weight, it's going to become a very frustrating fight for Deji, and one where Fousey can save a bit of his energy. That's when he can work the body with those big time hooks. Boom, boom, and as they separate, bang, one over the top, and then again, back to the jab, front foot, working into the jab. Unless Deji's improved on his counterpunch ability or his ability to follow up with shots while he's being pressured, I don't know how he handles being backed up once again. But that's all for Fousey. Let's talk about Deji. Deji is a tough one, man, because I have constantly, and I think a lot of people have constantly looked at Deji and said there's so much more there. And he's the only one with the key. Like, if I had the key, if Daly had the key, KSI had the key, if anyone else could do it for him, I know they would. The problem is he has to do it. He has to be the one to unlock the ability to work hard, the mentality to keep going even when it's tough, and to stop doubting himself. Those 3 big things mentally can either be strengths or weaknesses for Deji, and so far they've only been weaknesses, so we'll start there. Deji has to let go of his hands, of his self-doubt, and of this attempt to try to outlive his brother's shadow. Deji has to be himself in that ring, and he has to be doing it for himself. If he's stepping into a boxing ring and the dangers that are involved with that, you have to want to do it for you. Otherwise, when things get tough, the motivations will not be there, and he will look for a way out again. And that's really where Deji's biggest weaknesses are. It's not that he's the worst technical YouTube boxer we've ever seen. Sure, he's not the best, but he is starting to improve little things like tucking his chin when he's throwing an answer in the phone as he's returning shots. And those things are great when he's doing them with Daly on the pads, or you hear about it in his sparring sessions, but we haven't seen him take it to fight night yet. And as far as his actual weaknesses in the ring, yeah, Deji's going to have to throw more. We know this. He's going to have to put combinations together. He's going to have to stop forward pressure by answering with a counter punch. When Fousey starts to breach range, Deji cannot make the same mistakes he did with Alex and just move straight back. At some point, he's going to have to plant that foot and say, no, I'm not going backward. I'm not going to be walked around this ring. I'm going to fire back. Another issue Deji had in the Alex fight was, again, that clinch. He can't be bullied in there. And Fousey is far bigger than Alex is naturally. Deji cannot just carry Fousey's weight around all night. Find ways to work in and out of clinch, not only safely, but to give receipts to make Fousey understand he doesn't want to keep clinching, where his ribs are going to be more sore than my pride when a girl don't answer my DMs on Instagram. It's crazy because I haven't even met him yet and the shit still hurts. And another weakness we're going to have to talk about is Deji's cardio. Another thing that isn't necessarily talked about as much in the Alex fight as it maybe should have been was Deji maybe having some mental pictures of that Vinny fight, being afraid to get back to that place where he just can't breathe. He doesn't want to go back there, so maybe his output isn't as much. That's a massive factor too. As easy as it is for me to say, and as hard as it is to actually do, Deji's going to have to let go of that fear of fatigue and just go fight. I don't mean he just lets his hands go and throws a ton of punches per round if his body can't do that. But what I do mean, and we'll talk now about Deji's strength, is him throwing blitzes. Something that I think Deji got away from that he did well in the Jake fight, the best performance I've ever seen from him. And even if they didn't land very much, Jake wasn't necessarily affected by them. The ability he showed in that fight to get Jake off of him and create space again and reset the action was through those blitzing punches forward. I think if Deji was able to combine, yes, his slick defensive mentality into a quick offensive turnaround, into that quick transition, and again, it doesn't have to be for long, 3, 4, 5 punch blitzes just to get his opponent off him so he's not stuck in the corner or stuck in a clinch or just pivoting, slipping around and then clinching, moving back to range, but he's able to be offensive to create that space and land punches and sway the judges all in one fell swoop, the offensive blitz. That's something I want to see from Deji because I know technically he can. I know he can throw combination punches moving forward and moving backward. That's why I say technique for technique. Deji probably has the upper hand there. That will be one of his strengths, but this won't be just a strict boxing match where both guys are trading jabs, so Deji's going to have to create offense. I think that's done through defense to offense transition, and once that transition's done and they're back to range, and then he wants to start popping that jab and controlling the action from there and being a technical boxer, that's great, that's fine, but at some point he will have to go from defense to offense in a way that isn't just allowing guys to jab him into oblivion or clinch him. He's going to have to turn the tide. I think that's through planting that foot, utilizing that defense to roll under shots, then transition to offense coming forward. So how does Deji win this fight? I think it's through that defense to offense transition because I do see Fousey coming out immediately trying to walk Deji down. If I was a betting man, I would think Fousey's going to try to come out and bully Deji. If the plan is to let Fousey bring that first round and see exactly what he has, I'm fine with that, but at some point, he has to flip the switch and be offensive, and it's perfect for Deji if that happens when Fousey is closing range because Deji should want to get inside that frame anyway. I think he will have a bit of a reach disadvantage here as well. Getting inside of that range, taking advantage of Fousey walking forward, maybe a little bit off balance and using that slick defensive mentality to slip under shots but be offensive while he's there will be the key to this fight because again, Deji's biggest enemy here is himself and his self-confidence. Does he believe that even when he gets hit with one of those big shots from Fousey that he's still in that fight, or does he shut down and recoil back into that defensive kind of let's just survive this fight, I don't really care if I win, just if I get out without being knocked out? That's a battle Deji's gonna have to fight internally in this fight because yeah, there will be a big shot that I'm sure Fousey lands, whether it's to the body, whether it's to the head. Deji's gonna have to answer that call. He's gonna have to flip that switch and be confident in the fact that he belongs in there and that he does have to risk being hit to go out and hit Fousey. It is the game. You have to risk getting hit with a big one to deliver a big one. Yeah, you can be defensive and you can be slick all you want, but at the end of the day, it is a sport of not being punched and punching, not being damaged, but also delivering that damage. And with that incurs risk that Deji's going to have to take. So there it is, man. I think this is going to be a fight of attrition, a mental battle, with the mental battle being each fighter against themselves. And not only who can convince themselves they want this more, but who has committed themselves to training, to preparing in this camp for this fight to eliminate the massive holes I think both guys do have in their game. I don't have the answers to who actually wins, but with the rivalry being what it is and both guys having said what they've said about each other, they know what's on the line here. And that is why this fight, in my opinion, is make or break, because no matter what happens, one guy will move on. One guy will have redeemed himself, but one guy will probably never do this again. Now, I don't have the answers as to who's going to be on the right or wrong side of this fight, but if you do, let me know down below, because we're only 8 days away from August 27th. You're not going to want to miss this, because it's not just a fight. It's the fight for redemption. Who gets it? I guess we'll find out.